Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale. Up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery with the purchase of any smart bed. Ends Monday. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
To Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Appreciate you starting your work week with us. Hope it's off to a good start. We took the first day of school Palmer kids pictures on the front porch today. I am not sure they went great. The sun was beaming right in the 3.5-year-old and 5-month-old's eyes. Neither one of them's really going to school. They're going to daycare. But no one cried, and we got the pictures taken, and I guess that part of it was success. We got to find a better place to take the pictures, though, because you can't just have kids staring into their retinas were being burned by the sun. And I'm confident that there are many men driving around right now who also stood behind their wives who were adamant these pictures had to be taken and went, this could be done a little differently, I feel like. But we got them done today, and the kiddos went to the same daycare today, which is big. Palmer's have been doing double drop-off and double pickup over the last 3 months. But now we got them both in the same place. So we're set up for the school year. I hope you are as well. And again, appreciate you hanging out with us here on ESPN Baton Rouge. This is a redo segment from last week. If you remember last week, I did a segment, and I ranked LSU. It's actually 2 segments. I ranked LSU's position groups 1 through 10. And this was from a story that I did last Sunday. So we had been to practice like 4 times. I've been to practice 3 more times since, and they've had 5 more practices since. So in a way, things could have shifted. But I do this as a redo segment because I'm catching a lot of heat on Instagram. And I'll run through the rankings just to refresh, and then we'll talk about how things have, first of all, why I made the decision I made then, and why people were going nuts a week later. So I put edge rusher at number 1, and I wouldn't move edge rusher off number 1. I think LSU's edge players are awesome. I think they're deep. I think they're talented. I think they're versatile. I think they have different skill sets. I think they're really, really good at edge. I put that 1, and I feel good about it. I put wide receiver at 2, and I still feel every bit as good about wide receiver as I did last weekend. I think Chris Hilton is a stud. I think Aaron Anderson is proven to be a top-tier SEC wide receiver, and I think Berrien Brown and Kyle Parker and Nick Anderson and Xavion Thomas and all these guys are going to be really, really good for Garrett Nussmeier in this passing offense. So I'm good with him at 2. And then at 3, you've got Nussmeier, who I put in there. I said this when I did the segment. I was like, hey, this is because he's a star. I know the backups are not doing a great job, but that's okay. This is a one-guy position if you're healthy. You don't have to rotate guys through or keep guys fresh. You don't need a ton of depth unless you get hurt. And he's great. So I've got him at 3, and I don't feel any differently about that. If you heard the first hour of the show today, you know I'm not moving tight end off of 4. Because I think Trey'Dez Green is a star, and I think Bauer Sharp's had an awesome camp. And I have no reason to move there. And that group, 1 through 4, edge, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, I think is awesome. Like, I have no concerns about that outside of the second-team quarterback. And to be candid, if you get to your second-team quarterback, most teams aren't going to do very well. See Georgia last year. Cardale Jones' Ohio State team is an aberration. But as I get through this, like, I have safety at 5. I still feel great about safety. I think that A.J. Halsey is going to be very good. And I think you have, at that point, 4 other players, and you have to produce 1 good player. Like, if you take Halsey as a starter, then I need one of these guys to be a really good player. Tamarcus Cooley, Jordan Gilbert, Javian Toviano, Deshaun Spears. Like, if one of those dudes is good, then safety, I think you're in really good shape. I got linebacker at 6. I might flip that up in front of safety now because I think that West Weeks has played really well. But like Perkins is coming off injury. He looks awesome right now, but it feels like a long time ago he was a freshman making all of his plays. Feels a long time ago he was a freshman spying Bryce Young. I think linebacker is going to be really good. I still haven't gotten to a position I've got a lot of question marks on. I got running back at 7. Caden Durham's had an awesome camp. Awesome camp. Caleb Jackson's caught the ball pretty well. He's lost a little bit of weight. They're mixing in Harlan Berry a little bit. And Juwan Johnson is playing running back now. So you've taken JT Lindsay out. He turned himself in for that charge. And we'll see what his fall looks like. I don't know. This is not a legal segment. This is a football segment. We'll talk about the guys that are on the practice field. It's Caden Durham, Caleb Jackson, Harlan Berry, Juwan Johnson. And I feel good about that. It's at 7, but I feel good about it. And Durham is a proven commodity. He's going to run for 1,000 yards this year. Then you get to 8, 9, 10. And this is where I start taking heat. I put quarterback at 8. Cornerback at 8. I thought Ashton Stance has had a really good go early on in camp. Mansour Delane had 2 picks on Saturday. DJ Pickett is mixing things up a little bit. He's in position. He's being physical. PJ Woodland's made some plays on the ball. Like, it's not what it has been in the past, but I feel good about it. And I'm getting absolutely roasted on Instagram for having defensive tackle at 9. Keep in mind, when I did this, we were like 3 practices into seeing Bernard Gooden. And he's been better than that since. Like, he made another tackle for loss today with no pads on. He wasn't dominant on Saturday, but he's been dominant most of the time. And I know a lot of folks are really high on Dominic McKinley, and I'm not telling you not to be high on Dominic McKinley at all. And a lot of folks are really high on Ahmad Bro, and I'm not telling you not to be high on Ahmad Bro. And then you got Jacobian Guillory back from an Achilles injury. You got Sydir Mitchell, and then you can move Jack Pyburn in there, which they've done when you feel like you're at a little bit more of a pass rush situation. So the depth there is really, really good. But I'm getting crushed for having defensive tackle at number 9. And here's my case for that. First of all, some position has to be number 9. I think everybody's okay if I put offensive line at 10. Nobody's ranting and raving about that. And hopefully they're better than that. But somebody's got to be 9. Not everybody can be in the top 4. So to be number 9 doesn't mean you suck. Like, that doesn't mean you have a terrible position group. It means that the ones in front of you I find to be stronger at this point. And I say that because Bernard Gooden has only played in the American, and every rep he takes right now in camp is against what I perceive to be the weakest link on the team. So I'm not ready to anoint him an All-American, although I hope I'm dead wrong and he is an All-American. Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley are on a track to be great players at LSU, and I'm not suggesting they won't be great players at LSU. But Jacobian Guillory's coming off a torn Achilles, and he's been a role player for 5 years now. So you don't have anything proven at that position. Upside, yeah. Depth, absolutely. Position coach we really like, yep. Some flashes in camp, more than flashes, great. But am I ready to put them over running back at 7? No, not with Caden Durham there. Linebacker? I'm going to put him over linebacker? No. Whit Weeks is an All-American. Harold Perkins is an All-American. You got West Weeks and Devon Keys. Tylen Singleton's played great. Like, no. Safety? I'm not. Not the way Halsey's played. So I think when people read this list, and the reason that the Instagram comments have gone nuts, and I've gotten comments on Instagram and I've gotten comments on Twitter saying, hey, this is dead wrong. You're nuts. I think people read the list and go, 9th? He says the defensive tackles stink. He clearly isn't paying attention. Every day I read the practice reports, it says the defensive tackles are blowing up everybody. They're dominating the scrimmage. He's an idiot. I may be an idiot, but that's not what I'm saying. Now, if you gave me a mulligan, this is now 8 days since I wrote the story. 8 days, that's 4 or 5 practices that I've seen now where things are a little bit different. I would probably swap defensive tackle and cornerback, which would put corner at 9 and defensive tackle at 8. But still, Stamps and Delane have more skins on the wall at the Power 4 level than anybody at defensive tackle that LSU's got. And defensive tackles are still working against the weakest link on the team, and the corners are going against what I rank as the second unit on the team every practice. So I'm not even convicted in that move. I might make that move 8 days later. I don't think I'm being unreasonable. I thought that it was a sincere ranking, and then I get called out in the Instagram ranks to go, oh, you're just chasing name recognition, just clickbait. Like, well, I don't make any cash if you click on the Instagram reel. That's not how it works. It's not how the old pay scale's set up. So again, I might make some minor adjustments a week later and move defensive tackle up to 8, but like suggesting they should go ahead of linebacker or tight end, like, no, I don't think so. I'm very hopeful LSU's defensive line is dominant, but I feel better about the edges because of the proven nature of that group as opposed to the tackles where they look very good right now, but is that just because LSU is weak at offensive guard? Remains to be seen. I appreciate those for reading and for paying attention on Instagram and for commenting and for calling me out and interacting. I appreciate all that. But I do want to take a chance to state my case, and I just don't think it's ridiculous to rank the defensive tackles down towards the bottom because there's just not a lot proven. I'll tell you to close this segment out what I could say to doubt the defensive tackles and what I would actually say if pressed to be truthful. This would be the clickbait version of defensive tackle. Okay. Gooden is 275 pounds. He's maybe under 270. He's been beaten up on the American, and he's taken the lunch of DJ Chester, who struggled last year. Ahmad Bro was just a freshman last year, didn't make a ton of plays in the backfield. Don McKinley is 6'6" and is a 5-star, but didn't do a ton last year because he was hurt. Jacobian Guillory is a 6th-year player who's never made a lot of plays and is coming off an Achilles tear. Sadir Mitchell didn't play at Texas for a couple of years. Sean Washington hadn't played much in college. Like, not a lot of skins on the wall. Like, that would be a clickbait thing to say. What I really feel is I think Gooden is a playmaker in the right spot, which is pass rushing downs. I think McKinley's got all the potential in the world that has to manifest itself. I think Jacobian Guillory is a good space eater that won't make a lot of plays, but certainly has a role on this team. And I think Kyle Williams is going to coach these guys up with significant help from the edges where LSU is going to be very good, that they're going to be a good defensive line. They're going to be a good defensive tackle group. And if you told me to re-rank the team, position group by position group, 1 through 10, I'd probably put them at 7 instead of 8. I'd probably put them at 8 instead of 9. That's where I think they probably rank. And I think that's just being honest. But hopefully, it's a dominant group. I would love that. And it would take LSU closer to a championship if that is actually the case. Just defending myself a little bit for my ranking from last weekend. All right, let's keep things moving. Blake Baker, LSU defensive coordinator, met with the media today. We also have to meet the freshmen. We'll do all that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. You know, one of the things that makes Genesis different is the people that work there. If you stop by the dealership, airline at Piku, and you just have a conversation with one of their brand ambassadors, you'll feel at home. You'll feel like a guest, not a customer. I know a lot of folks end up on a car lot and you feel like you're being pressured. You're being upsold. You're being pushed and forced. That's never going to happen at Genesis. They're going to treat you like a guest. They're there to help. They want to help you through the buying process. You can start the process yourself at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car that is on the lot's online, so you can go through the entire inventory. GV80 is their best seller. Mid-size SUV. It is a gorgeous vehicle. I got behind one of them 2 weeks ago. Just awesome. So go by and see them and just talk through the process. I promise you'll be impressed with the facility, the line of vehicles, and the staff. Every car, 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. That's your powertrain warranty. And as I mentioned in the first hour, you're talking about a 5-year, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty. That's industry leading. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. Go by and see Maryland at PQ. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Reminder, you can get all the coverage you're looking for the Saints and LSU at LouisianaSports.net. Had just a monster week last week. Appreciate y'all for going over there and checking our stuff out. We got practice reports up. We've got columns and opinion up. Ross was out in Los Angeles for Saints practice as well as the preseason game, so he's got a column up, breakdown of both quarterbacks, lots of content, and it's all free. So if you want to head over there and check that out, you can do it. No pop-ups or article limits or subscription base. It's just free. Just content for you, the Louisiana sports fan. Got tons of LSU and Saints content up there. LSU baseball got a commitment over the weekend, and I wrote that up on LouisianaSports.net. So no matter what you're looking for, we've got you covered over there at LouisianaSports.net. All right, let's meet the freshmen.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen. Meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
I actually knew I was going to do this segment today, so I made a point to look at the two guys that I was going to talk about. And we start with Philip Wright III, Destrehan wide receiver, a 4-star recruit who was a top 15 player in the state. If you look at the On3 ranking, he was number 12 in the state, a 4-star. Look at 24/7, he was number 10 player in the state. Listed in his high school recruiting profile at 5'11", 170. You look at where LSU has him listed, 6 feet, 175. That's about right. I was looking at him today. He is on the thin side, but he runs. He's so fast. He is such a fast wide receiver. And you look at him on the track in high school. He won the 2024 5A regional title in the 100 and the 200. He won a silver medal in the 2024 indoor 60 meter. He was clocked at the All-American Bowl showcase at 4.34 in the 40. I always take that with a grain of salt because these guys go to the combine 3 and 4 years later and very rarely run anything close to that. But still, the point remains, if they clock you at 4.34, you're moving. Whether or not that was exactly right on a laser time or not, you can really go. In the 100 meters, he was clocked at 10.46, ran a 21.41 in the 200. He is sensational in the track and is lightning fast with the ball in his hands. This is another guy, and I talked about Teron Francis last week, who was in last year's freshman class. They don't need him to go out there this year. They bring back Aaron Anderson. They bring back Kyle Parker. They bring back Chris Hilton, and then you go get Destin Hill, and you go get Barry and Brown, and you go get Nick Anderson, and now all of a sudden you're like 6-7 deep of guys who have played the position who are older. So Philip Wright's deal this year is, hey, need you to come in. I need you to put on 10 pounds. I need next year in the spring, you probably need to be 6 feet, 185 and maintain that speed. And then once Aaron Anderson's gone and Chris Hilton's gone and Barry and Brown's gone and Nick Anderson's gone, and then you look up and it's kind of like Kyle Parker, maybe Destin Hill, and the rest of the crew, you've got a lot of opportunity to come in and make some significant plays. And I think that's Philip Wright's trajectory at LSU. But to me, this is a guy from Destrehan. Destrehan's been very, very good to LSU over the years. He's from Shrewsbury, Louisiana, which I had never heard of. I asked the New Orleans folks about this. Apparently, it's more of like they consider it more of a neighborhood than a town, but they'd certainly heard of it. I never heard of it. But Philip Wright's from there. Any way you slice it, just an absolute freak of nature with the ball in his hands in terms of his speed. And we know about speed. He's a guy that is going to be a very impactful playmaker for LSU down the line with that burst. So that's Philip Wright from Destrehan. He's number one on Meet the Freshman today. The second is Brandon Brown, defensive tackle from Melbourne, Florida. He is listed at 6'1", 295 on LSU's website. So good size there on the inside. Was a consensus 3-star from ESPN 24/7 and on 3. Rivals did give him a 4th star, had him as number 23 defensive tackle in the country. But you look at on 3, had him closer to 60 in the state of Florida, number 55 defensive tackle in the country. 24/7 has the number 43rd defensive tackle in the country. But a big, wide body. And again, another guy, you look at the picture that Cassie's got up that Bo Davis identified. Bo Davis, and this is something I talked about with Zion Williams as well when we did his Meet the Freshman last week. Bo Davis likes size and he likes big dudes in the middle of his defense. And I don't know if that's necessarily how Kyle Williams is going to play it. I think he's going to want guys who are a little bit quicker. I took a look at Brandon Brown today. It's a guy that is a big, big physical dude. He's in the Zion Williams mold. He's in the Jacobian Guillory mold. That's what he looks like. He's not as big as Cedier Mitchell, who nobody out there is as big as Cedier Mitchell. But Brown is just he's a space eater, but he does have some quickness. If you look at his tape, he does get off the ball pretty well, and that's something that Bo Davis absolutely identified in him when they decided to bring him over from Melbourne, Florida. If you look at the offer list that he had, he was a guy that LSU eventually won out on with Bo Davis fairly late in the process. It had to be late with Bo Davis because Bo Davis didn't have a lot of time to evaluate guys. He had only been on campus for like a year. But they won out over some in-state schools in the state of Florida, and I know felt really good about him coming in, but it's the same thing I talked about with Kyle Williams. Does he have a path to the field with a defensive line coach who looks at it a little bit of a different way? I can't answer that question. I don't have to this year because I just routed off the 6 guys they're going to roll through a defensive tackle in front of these freshmen. But LSU brought in a big defensive line haul this year. And I'm curious to see how it shakes out over time because ultimately, generally, guys move on. I mean, Miami wanted this guy. Tennessee wanted this guy. Texas A&M wanted this guy. I mean, I think this was a very good get, and I think LSU should continue to develop him and work him through. We just won't know. We're not going to get our answer. There's going to be no immediate feedback on this because there are so many guys in front of these freshmen. That's a good thing. You don't want to ask freshman defensive linemen to jump in the deep end immediately. You want those guys to take some time to get in the weight room, to get stronger, to develop, and then to get their chance when they're 2nd, 3rd, 4th year players. We'll see. It takes a long time. In this day and age, we don't think of it that way because you just go in the portal and microwave the teams. But there was a time where you took defensive linemen in and said, hey, we'll see you in 18 months when you're physically ready to go, and that's when you'll make your mark. Brandon Brown fits that mold at this point. We'll see how things move forward. So that's your Meet the Freshman here on this Monday. Chugging right through. Blake Baker met with the media earlier today, had a lot of interesting things to do. We're going to go around a lot of the positions on the field. He talked about safety, talked about Harold Perkins, talked about a lot of the defense that he's going to put out there. And I'll tell you this, I like this defense. I think it's playing very well right now. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Any of the first hour, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Had a lot to talk about with LSU's football practice today. Got to see a lot of action. Now, they did not have shoulder pads on, just a helmets practice, toned down the physicality today after a big Saturday practice where they ran a lot of plays, did some tackling. Today was more of a recovery after Sunday. So Brian Kelly has got these guys on a pitch count. There's no question about it. He's not going to Les Miles 2-a-days just running guys into the ground with 4-hour practices. Those days are long gone. You're talking talking about a different philosophy. And LSU has done so very healthily, if that's a word. They're healthy, and they're pretty rested, and they're getting a lot of work in. And Blake Baker talked after practice today. Here's the deal with this Blake Baker sound. I didn't go to Blake Baker today. I had to come back to the station and write the practice report, which you can read at louisianasports.net. And I didn't get a chance to listen to it because when I posted the practice report at louisianasports.net, I sat down to do a radio show. So Jacob Beck has some of this Blake Baker sound, and we're going to hear it together for the first time, and then I'm going to talk about what it is that I hear. So, Mr. Beck, I know that you're working through that sound over there currently. Is there any that you have available to toss my way at this current juncture?
Yeah, I do. I think the most interesting one, I guess, maybe to start with, somebody that you have talked about, a lot of people have talked about, though, Bernard Gooden, who has been really a force so far in camp. But this is what Baker had to say about Bernard Gooden.
Bernard Gooden has been a joy in every sense of the word to coach. He is high energy. Y'all probably hear him more than anyone on the field. But in today's game, you even look in the NFL, there's not many, a lot of really, really successful defensive tackles are going to be between 280 and 305 pounds. The thing that he does really well, because he is so twitchy and has such good get off, his second foot's in the ground before the offensive lineman. So even though he might be giving up 30 pounds, he's able to get leverage and get power, and the offensive lineman doesn't have his second foot in the ground. So, one of the things that we did through the evaluation process, obviously being an undersized guy, is really evaluate him hard against the run. And we really liked what we saw, and we really, really like what we see up to this point. He's done a great job creating havoc and holding point.
So I have a lot of things to say about that. One, he's a joy for the defensive coaches to coach. I don't know that he's a joy for the offense right now because he does talk a lot. That guy is jawing and jawing and jawing. He and Garrett Nussmeier reportedly got into a little bit of a jaw off on Saturday, and there's just an edge to him. There's no doubt about it, and there's no problem with that as long as you're not getting 15-yard penalties. I don't care what you say. And he's backing it up. And one of the things that I think is important to note with Gooden, you talk about that get off, that first step, that get into the backfield, a lot of these plays that he is making are TFLs in the run game, not sacks. So he's getting sacks, but he also is getting tackles for loss in the run game. And you think about a 275-pound defensive tackle, 280-pound defensive tackle, whatever he's listed at, and you think, well, he's light in the run game. He's making plays in the run game. So, yeah, I agree with Blake Baker on all accounts there. I sincerely hope that we're not building up a bill of goods that Bernard Gooden can't live up to, because everybody who is listening to this radio station, who is reading practice reports, who is listening to podcasts, who is watching local news, who's paying attention to fall camp even a little bit, has been told Bernard Gooden's name time and time and time again. And your assumption is that he's going to make 3 plays in the backfield in the Clemson game. Like that's what you're thinking right now. And I have no reason to believe that's not going to happen, because we see it every day. We saw it again today. Pads, no pads, he gets back there and does it. But it is practice. It is working on LSU's offensive line. I can't be sure, but I can promise you this. We are not lying to you. He is making plays back there every single day. So that's an interesting comment from Blake Baker on Bernard Gooden, and one that I echo. What else we got back there, Beck?
All right, next one. This is something else that Bernard Gooden, I'm sure, will have an effect on. But Baker was asked about stopping the run, something they struggled with pretty handedly last year, and how they will progress in that this season.
There's definitely some things that we're going to do different schematically to give our guys a better chance at that. Sometimes, and it's probably just something that I have to do a better job of, is understanding, how do I want to put this? I'll just leave it at that, making sure that we give them the tools necessary to stop the run, whether that be an extra hat, whatever the case may be.
Okay, that's a vanilla answer, but I have this to say about it after watching practice. If you look at what LSU was last year at defensive tackle, and you look at Ahmad Bro as a freshman, Dominic McKinley as a hurt freshman, and then you got Gio Paez kind of shifting down to play. He wasn't a big impact guy at Wisconsin and had a fine year last year, and then Paris Shand having to kick down a little bit as well. And you look at that defensive tackle rotation, which was serviceable, but certainly not effective. That's the wrong word. Serviceable, but not dominant by any stretch of the imagination in any game. And you look at Bro and McKinley a year older, the way Gooden's playing, Guillory coming off injury, but healthy. And then you consider what Pyburn has been at Florida, which is a proven 60-tackle SEC defensive lineman who can play edge and tackle. Personnel-wise, they're better. And you get Whitweeks back, who is a star at stopping the run. You get West Weeks. Devon Keys is a year older. Penn is an undrafted player who was a great team guy for you. Was he a dynamic playmaker on defense? I wouldn't go that far. So personnel-wise, you're better there. They've got to execute better and do some things differently. And I contend that they will. They've stopped the run very well in fall camp. They've given up some big plays, and Caden Durham's hit them for some big ones. But they have made more plays at and around the line of scrimmage than they have given up busts. That's for sure.
All right, next one. Speaking of more defensive line here, this is Baker speaking about Dom McKinley and how he has progressed from last year. Why he's a different player from what he was last year.
Yeah, I think he's a lot more confident. Obviously we didn't have him last spring, and it's hard. Some guys pick it up quicker, some don't. But when you haven't been here in spring and your first acclimatization is fall camp, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And he's still making strides. He's improving every single day. But I think more than anything, if you were to ask any guy too, just year two in the scheme, he's not thinking about, what do I do on this call, what do I do on that call, which allows him to play faster and more confident. But again, I think it's been talked about. Bruce Feldman's freak list, he was top 10 or whatever. The weight room, as much as anything, builds your confidence out there on the football field, and I think that's starting to show up.
Not only was he not an early enrollee, talking about McKinley, his first exposure was fall camp, and then he got hurt 2 weeks into fall camp and missed a bunch of time. He wasn't even available in the USC game. So you're behind some guys who enrolled early, and then you're even more behind because you don't have fall camp. And I talked about this because when you have a player come in and miss fall camp, it's just too hard to catch up because you're constantly preparing for a game. And so you can't get the reps you need. That's why when Solomon Thomas was going to miss a month starting August 1st, I'm going, he's not going to play this year. Because by the time he's ready to practice, they got to get ready to play Ole Miss. They got to get ready to play South Carolina. They're not going to give you spot reps here and there like they do in fall camp. And so it just puts you behind the 8 ball like McKinley was last year. And so I have not seen as many flashes from McKinley as many have this fall. My expectation for him is not through the roof. I'm not down on the kid at all. Not even a little bit. A guy with that kind of talent, that kind of ability in the weight room, that kind of frame and profile, I think he could be a star. I'm going to need to see that, and I'm anxious to do it. Hopefully that is the case. But he was behind the 8 ball as a freshman. That is inarguable at this point. Got 2 more?
Yeah. Next one. This is Baker talking about the transfers. Obviously, one of the bigger talking points with LSU's defense. They brought in a lot of guys from the transfer portal. So this is Baker talking about how those pieces LSU brought in this offseason will fit into his defense.
Part of the job of being a defensive coordinator is obviously fitting the scheme to your players. And every coordinator has specific things that they want to have the luxury to do, right? I think when you look across the board, I think it's twofold. I think from an overall athleticism standpoint, we've upgraded, and then also from a experience standpoint. We brought in, like we've talked about 1,000 times, guys have played a lot of football. And I'll kind of leave it at that to get into too many specifics, but I think those are the 2 biggest generalizations.
That, to me, is a long-form way of saying the floor is really high on this group.
Yeah.
And I've said that since camp broke. I don't think A.J. Halsey, Mansour Delane, Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, I don't think any of those guys, Tamarcus Cooley, are going to show up and just bust. These guys can't play at LSU. That just seems almost impossible. For Payton to put up those numbers at Florida State, for Pyburn to put up those numbers at Florida, for Delane to do what he did in 2 years starting at Virginia Tech, and then some of the reps he's put on tape in fall camp. Cooley, his versatility and size. Halsey, just ridiculous productivity at 2 different stops, New Mexico and Houston. LSU has had transfers over the last 3 seasons really, if I'm thinking about that, they had some accolades at other places and they came here and couldn't play. That's happened a couple times. This group, that would stun me. It would stun me. Now, whether or not AJ Halsey's going to be first team All SEC, I think he could be. Maybe not. Is Mansour Delane going to be a second round pick? He could be. Maybe not. And so that's really the volatility. You're not talking about, well, this guy cannot play. You had an all ACC corner come here 2 years ago that could not play. Couldn't play. You had a former 5-star corner from Texas A&M who came here and could not play. Could not play. And when you look at these transfers, these guys, that seems like almost an impossibility. They may not be the greatest defense in LSU history, but I'll be stunned if LSU is not in the top half of the SEC in total and scoring defense, because I think the floor is that high. Now, if they're going to go win the national championship, then they're going to need to be a dominant defense, an incredible defense, a defense that I talk about and reference in the transfer portal era the next 15 years. Remember that 2025 defense? They brought in all those pieces and nobody could score. Like, that's what they'll have to be for them to win the national championship. But the floor is just really high, and that's what he's talking about in that bite. Got one more?
Yeah, last one real quick. This is just Baker talking about DJ Pickett, just what he's seen from him so far through the camp.
DJ has grown so much from when we had him in bowl practices to spring practice to now. 10 days in, he's a freshman. There's been some days where we got to continue to work on his consistency. But the biggest improvement from spring to fall has been his physicality. He has done a really, really good job tackling this fall. In the spring, there were some moments where, and again, he's put on, 20 pounds or something like that since he's been here. So the weight room's going to build confidence from that standpoint. But I've been more impressed with his physicality so far than the coverage skills and stuff. He's always had that, and he's gotten better. Don't get me wrong, but his physicality he's turned it up a notch this fall camp.
So Baker sees a lot more Pickett tackling than I do, but I can echo the physicality in this way. When he covers and they throw jump balls or fade routes or sideline rail routes, like he is not afraid to get physical. And that, in my opinion, as I watch, is going to result in some pass interferences. But as I said at the top of the show when I was talking about the defense, I would rather a young corner get some pass interference calls because he's in position and willing to mix it up than not be in position or get beat all the time. Like, if you're Brandon Browner of the Saints and you're a free agent acquisition and you can't quit getting pass interference penalties in the NFL, well, you're no good to me at all. And I don't feel that way about those pass interferences. But a true freshman who's undersized from a frame and weight perspective going against a really good receiver core, you want to mix it up a little bit in practice, I'm good with that. Absolutely good with that. So, yeah, I'm with you on Pickett's physicality as well there, Blake Baker. And, again, I think this defense has a chance to be very good. And they got a good coordinator calling the shots there. So, more Blake Baker probably on tomorrow's show when we get it all cut up. But wanted to get to some of that here as we wrap on this Monday. So, we'll come back, play some Take It or Leave It, and get on down the road on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, wrapping things up here on this Monday. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Back, your last chance to ask me any questions on the air before you head in. You feel like you're completely prepped?
No.
No? How's the anxiety level?
It's rising.
Rising. Okay. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of anxiety for number 2. Number 1, it's a whole new world.
Yeah, of course.
Whole new world. I promise.
After the first one, it's like
I promise you don't have a lot of responsibilities in that room. It's you just got other people you're concerned about. You're just kind of staying there. So don't worry about your role whatsoever. I was a little nervous about cutting the umbilical cord. I thought I could do some irreparable damage. Turns out, really can't. They hand you, and you have this far of a place to cut in between. A 2-year-old could do it. So you'll be just fine. Just be there for some people, all right?
Yep, that's what I'm trying to do.
All right, let's play Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. It is light, but flavorful and refreshing. Phenomenal light beer. Comes in the slim can, also in the clear bottles. Talking about 2.6 carbs, 95 calories, so it gives you everything you need from a light beer perspective, but it's got that great beer flavor from the oldest brewery in America. It's Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer. If this question has to do with the Milwaukee Brewers, I will throw you out of the studio.
Nope, not going to do it.
Thank you.
I don't want to do it anyway. As you can see on the video, if you're watching, I'm wearing an Astros shirt.
Yeah, I got real issues with that too.
No, I told Hunt facetiously that I was giving up my Cubs fandom after they lost to the Cardinals and the Brewers continue to win. Doesn't seem like they're going to lose a game, but anyways, yeah, they are.
It's very evident.
Yeah, they have to be. You can't win that many games in a row and not have a good team. All right, first one here got the AP poll, preseason AP poll. That is for college football. Texas ranked number 1. They got 2 more first place votes than the Penn State Nittany Lions, and LSU coming in at number 9 on the list. They are the 4th highest ranked SEC team. Alabama just ahead of them at 8. Georgia at 5. LSU at number 9. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. That's about right. That's right on the at-large bubble. I mean, everything you look at, from a tier list to a ranking to a power, like whatever you want to look at, LSU is right on the at-large list. And I look at this team and I think they're right on the at-large. I don't think it's a 12-0 football team. I don't think it's a 8-4 football team. I think it's going to be right on the border, and that's going to make this wildly exciting. Speaking of wildly exciting, like I can't think of 2 fan bases more starred for championships than Penn State or Texas. Tennessee and A&M would probably be in that bucket as well. Oregon has probably worked its way into that bucket, but for those 2 teams to be right at the top, I think is fascinating.
All right, next one here. This was a pretty cool NFL preseason kicked off. Had the Hall of Fame game. Anyway, a lot of games over the weekend. The Jaguars and the Steelers. The Jaguars ended up losing 31-25, but Cam Little, not only did he make 4 field goals. One of them 70 yards. I don't know if you saw this.
I did not see that.
Yes, Cam Little 70 yards. And also, if you watch the video of it, it had maybe a couple of yards to spare. It didn't 70? It didn't just go right over the top of the crossbar. It had some room there. So Cam Little 70-yard field goal. Let's just go ahead and say somebody will make a 70-yarder in the next year or 2. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. If he did it, like, was this in Jacksonville?
Yeah, no wind either. There was
that was my next question.
There was no wind. It was dead.
I completely missed that. I'm not going to even purport myself, even as a sports talk radio show host guy, to tell you that I've kept up with every preseason game. That's not going to happen. And 70-yard field goal, I missed that completely. I watched the Saints. 70-yard field goal, I did not see. So that's it for Take It or Leave It here on this Monday. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Another practice report going up on LouisianaSports.net tomorrow. Matt's going to drive you home next. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. Good luck to the Becks. The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.